Hey, guys. Welcome back to the Touch MBA podcast. I am your host, Darren, and I am scared of AI. I'm so scared that I am resisting using it. And in this episode, I brought on Sabine King, who's the director of the Career Accelerator at the Australian Graduate School of Management at the University of New South Wales. It's Australia's top-ranked MBA program. And we had a really just open discussion about how has AI affected demand for MBA graduates? How is AI affecting how career services is advising their MBAs to achieve their post-MBA goals? And how is a top business school like AGSM preparing students to succeed in a world of AI? So I hope you find this conversation useful as you plan your career and as you see how the business education industry and MBA programs are changing and evolving as AI grows and increases in use. Personally, I took a lot from this conversation. I realized I need to absolutely reframe how I think about AI and take a more playful approach to it, use it whenever possible to enhance who I am and my skills and what I can offer others. And what I love about this conversation as well is Sabine gets really into the nitty-gritty about how AI is being used to assess job applicants, what tools AGSM is using and recommending their students to prepare for their interviews. And yeah, just to name a few, because I'm sure some of you are interested, they use ChatGPT and Copilot for everyday sort of AI tasks. But they also use a number of other tools such as Crystal, VMock, Case Coach, and Graduate First to help their graduates. And I'll link to all these tools in the show notes so you can explore them yourselves and get a sneak preview for, what you'll be doing during your MBA program. You can find all the show notes to this episode at touchmba.com/podcast. We have a ton of guides on, for example, the best MBA programs in Australia that are free that you can use to compare top schools head to head. We're trying our best to help you pick the best fit MBA program for you that will be great return on investment and advance your career. And we really focus on international business schools. So if you want to get free profile feedback on your competitiveness at a program like AGSM or another leading program internationally, go head over to touchmba.com and we'd be happy to give you a free profile review over there. All right, let's get to my conversation with Sabine King. Here we go. I'm really excited to explore the topic of today's episode because I'm just so genuinely curious about what top business schools and MBA programs are doing to incorporate AI into their curriculums, and especially how this is affecting career services and how MBA students are looking for and finding jobs in the workplace. So I'm really lucky to have Sabine King on the show, who is the director of the Career Accelerator at the Australian Graduate School of Management at the University of New South Wales. So some of you may shorten that to AGSM at UNSW, based in Sydney. She's been with the university for nearly 14 years, serving in a variety of capacities, growing collaboration, partnerships, experiential learning opportunities, career support services across industry, students, and alumni. So we can really benefit from her experience, having seen all these changes over this time in career services. So Sabine, thank you so much for your time, and thank you for coming on the Touch MBA podcast.
Thank you so much, Darren, and thank you for having me. I'm really excited to talk about AI and enlighten your audience as well around what are the things that we're doing here at AGSM. And thank you for the introduction.
Yeah, I can't wait. So before we jump into the AI topic, can you just please briefly give us a bit of background on what you do as the director of the Career Accelerator?
Yes, of course. So Career Accelerator is our careers team at the business school at UNSW. So we have a central employability team, but our business school students, and in particular our MBA students, have the additional support from my team We are a bunch of like-minded people who are passionate about growing every individual student and helping them achieve their career ambitions and their career success. And we know that this looks different for every individual. So this is really when you start your MBA, we start your personalized journey with every single student around where have they come from, where do they see themselves at the end of their MBA. And most of them don't know that when they start. So it's a journey that we go on together and we explore and we develop skills. And then, of course, we have a network of our career coaches as well who really support our students throughout that journey of then also getting and achieving career success.
Wow, perfect. All right, super clear. So let's jump right into it. I mean, the first question I think is probably on every applicant's mind, which is, how has AI affected demand for MBA graduates? Has this changed how MBAs are viewed in the market? We hear these stories about these top companies saying, oh, we're going to, replace 25% of our workforce with AI, and that's scary. So I'm just wondering what you've seen on the ground
Yeah,
in this
completely.
space.
And lots has happened, and I can completely understand that some of those conversations for some people will be really exciting. I'm one of those people who are excited by AI, and for others it can be absolutely daunting and scary somewhat, right? So I think AI has been around for a long time, but it's never been as much talked about, as well known as it is now. We can see it's everywhere. From when we pull out our mobile devices, everything is tracked everywhere. We can get feedback on the spot. AI can help you plan your holidays, plan your life, and can, for certain people, replace their traditional roles and career. So yes, it can be scary, but I think for MBA students, where AI is helping and assisting us is actually with the stuff that maybe the humans don't want to necessarily always do. So I think when our MBA students come into the careers now, yes, we need to embrace AI, but what we need in order to have humans and AI work together really efficiently and ethically responsibly as well, we still need that human element. AI can automate things. AI can create efficiencies, can lift productivity, but it cannot yet fully replace the human. We still need that complex decision making. AI is only as good as the data you give it that it's trained by. It hasn't got the same capabilities that humans, and in particular, when you look at MBA graduates, you guys are the best of the best. So you're not replaceable yet. And I think every single company is going to need MBA students even more so to help them with that digital transformation. You can't be a company in this century and not embrace AI. It's there. If you don't use it, you're going to get left behind. But in order to use it, and in order to use it responsibly, ethically, and efficiently, you need people that are going to help you on that digital transformation and that journey. Does that make sense?
It does. It does. I mean, I think that kind of affects my next question, right?
Yeah.
So you've laid the context of how AI fits within, what MBAs want to do and what they can do, and what companies want MBA graduates to do. But has this affected how you guys at Career Services are advising MBAs to achieve their post-MBA goals, especially at a program at AGSM, which is quite accelerated?
Yeah, completely. So there's two fundamental things when it comes to AI. I don't think you can be a manager in an organization or an executive or a leader in an organization helping companies transform without understanding AI, where it's come from, how it's evolved, how it's changed, but also without actually being able to use it yourself properly. And I know I tend to tinker around with technology, play around with things, and that's how I learn. And our students have to do the same. You can't recommend new strategies without actually having played around with the AI tools that are out there. So having that innate curiosity about different technologies and different platforms is really important to us. And there's two ways that we approach it. One is through the curriculum in our AGSM courses, and we embed AI into your learning. So we encourage our students to use AI tools. UNSW has a license with OpenAI, ChatGPT plus Edu platform, and we're using that. We have Copilot as well. So it's a secure platform, But our students are encouraged to use it as part of their projects, as part of their different courses, in their personal life, wherever they wish. Because the more you use it, the more you understand that prompt engineering, what's working for the tool, what's not working, how can I raise better questions and create better prompts to get better answers. And equally, our academics are learning very quickly, oh, this is a ChatGPT answer, right? We can see essays, we can see responses, and you can see, has it been adjusted? Maybe it's been a tool that someone has used initially, but then they have used their critical thinking lens and they've used their own brains to evolve the research that they've done through ChatGPT, Copilot, or other platforms. So I think this is what's happening when you're using the tools in a structured learning environment. You're setting your students up for success. So through the courses that we have and that we offer that focus on AI, that's important. But equally in the career space, you cannot get away from AI in the career space either. So most large companies use applicant tracking systems. So ATSs now use keyword search. Well, they've used keyword search for many years, but now they're also using it to spot AI responses. So the more you're aware of how AI is used in the recruitment process, the more you can lean into it and use it to your advantage to get further through the process.
Yeah, I mean, could you give me an example of that? Like how AI is being used in the recruiting, like just one specific way you've seen, just to kind of, give our applicant listeners a sneak preview of what to expect.
Okay, so a really simple one that most of us probably relate to is when you have your CV and you're applying for a job, it comes with a position description. The most effective way to actually get your CV through the ATS, the tracking system, is by repeating the keywords that are used in the position description. Now, there's AI tools where you upload your CV, you upload the position description, and it tells you whether it's a match or not. You can describe, a particular skill in many different words, but the more you use the word that's used in the position description, the higher your success is going to be of the ATS recognizing you and giving you a higher score. So really simple ways, and AI tools really help you to just nail that intersection. We always know you need to personalize, you need to tailor your resume to a particular job, but now you need to do it even more so, and AI tools can help you with that.
So this is kind of a selfish question, but I've always been more of a skeptic. I've been always a bit more of a skeptic and maybe a bit more fearful of the technology. I'll be honest to our listeners. So when you mention curiosity, willingness to play, I'm a very playful person, but with this AI, I just have this deep resistance to it. I think it's just because I'm a little bit scared of the technology. But that said, you mentioned how it's important to use AI ethically. And something that I don't quite understand is using your example, right? That you just mentioned. I think it's getting harder to tell who is who. Like, is my response to you, was it what I actually thought? Was it a combination of AI tools and what I thought? Or was it, like who's talking here? So when you mentioned this resume example in the ATS, it's kind of like you're using a machine to talk to a machine. And I guess I've always feared this loss of individuality and like how can we stand out as applicants to jobs, as applicants to schools? And I don't know. It's kind of a lot in there, but
there is. And you're completely right. And I haven't heard this for the first time. And I think, thank God, it's not just an applicant tracking system that makes the hiring decision, right? It's one part to get through a process of multiple steps. But if you can't get through the online application, well, then what's the point of being a great performer in an interview? Because you haven't gotten to that point yet.
You have to get through.
So you need to, embrace it, because that's how the process works. And until the process changes, you're going to have to get incrementally through the different steps and use that to your advantage. But equally, just because you've used AI, and this is what we're trying to teach our students, we don't want you to sound like a robot. We still want you to have your authentic self shine through your CV and your cover letter. And that can still happen, but using the technology to help you get just that little bit more leverage. So certainly we do not want you to be a robot or sound like ChatGPT, because actually that gets recognized. People can see it, whether it's authentic or not. And then, of course, luckily, once you've gone through your own application, once you've done your psychometric testing, and there's lots of AI tools to practice that. And practice isn't a bad thing. We all need to practice, right?
Absolutely.
Practice makes you perfect. So using AI tools to practice for psychometric assessment, behavioral, numerical assessments, all of those things, using Case Coach, for example, for your case style interviews, that's great.
Okay, wait, that's a tip. So
us,
Case
right?
Coach,
Yeah.
sorry to interrupt, but Case Coach is a AI sort of program that helps people prepare for case studies, I'm guessing.
Exactly. So you can do case studies, you can do the learning modules on there, but they've also embedded feedback. So you can do a live case, you can solve a case live. You can even solve it with people around the world, and then you get feedback on your approach. Now, having done that maybe 5-6 times before you go for a strategy role in an interview, where you might be asked, especially in Sydney here, we might be asked questions, how many sharks are in Sydney Harbour?
Oh, gosh.
Having practiced those kind of answers and understanding what are interviewers actually looking for when they ask you these kind of questions, that's important. And then that practice takes away the nerves, and that makes you a better performer in the interview. So if you can reframe using technology to assist you in the process, not to alter you, not to sound robotic, but to actually bring the best out in you.
Crystal clear. Have you noticed any differences in terms of industries, whether it's finance, consulting, technology, traditionally the 3 biggest recruiters of MBAs? Like, are you seeing any difference in how they're kind of requesting your students to be, let's say, fluent in AI versus, so that one dimension in terms of industry, and the second dimension I'm curious about is like graduate students versus undergraduate students.
Yeah, huge difference. So if you're looking at consulting, for example, you just need to look at Accenture, McKinsey, BCG. They all have their own AI institutes and divisions within, or their AI labs within their organizations. Equally for us, we have a large employer, is the Commonwealth Bank of Australia, CBA for short. They have their own innovation labs using AI. So whatever we might be doing here as a university, organizations and industry are doing same, if not more. So they are looking for candidates that will work with AI. But also, you don't have to be a pure believer. They certainly want you to critically reflect on it, ask, what are the limits to it? And maybe what are the limits to it now? How can they be overcome? And certainly our MBA students don't need to be the programmers behind it, but they need to be able to ask those questions. How is it ethical? What's the bias coming into the tool? And especially when you talk about recruitment and in careers again, think about the finance industry. The finance industry is notoriously for having a gender gap in their workforce. And of course, if the AI tool is trained by white, middle-aged male, then that bias is only going to be exaggerated even more. So having that understanding as a human to know, well, the data going into it might be flawed. Therefore, what we're getting out isn't accurate of where we want to go in the future.
Yes.
And that's not replaceable by machines yet.
Right. Yeah. I mean, maybe that's one of the reasons I'm scared of the potential of AI, because I know it's trained on our content and what we've produced and put out on the internet. But I mean, I get your point. I think it's very clear that you guys are encouraging your students to be very curious, to experiment, and use these new technologies, to be aware of the larger context surrounding them. And it seems like a new AI tool is coming out every month or two.
Completely. And I can't keep up with it either.
Yeah,
I don't have time to play with all of them.
And there's this like really interesting, as an entrepreneur myself, this interesting balance between, okay, I need to jump on this tool because it's so amazing and so powerful, while also, delivering value to whoever my customer or employer is. And I'm curious, like, do you guys how do you advise that students kind of navigate and succeed in this world of just, it's a complex world, right? Where no one really knows what the best answer is. And yeah, like, how are you guys advising to students to deal with the uncertainty and the ambiguity of that?
Yeah, I think there's two sides to it. As an organization, there's IT teams in place who will do the cyber checks and the checks to say, this is the platform we allow you to use. And even that can change. Like we've seen recently with tools coming out of China that have been banned. So that can change on a monthly basis, sometimes daily basis. But I think organizations will lay the foundation to the best of their abilities to choose a sort of platform or system that they might support. In our case, we have Copilot, and we're doing a new pilot with ChatGPT Edu as well, which is that open AI platform that we've just piloted end of last year. But maybe in your personal life, and that's actually, I think, where our students are probably ahead of me, definitely. They're playing around with these tools all the time. And whether that is our MBA grads, or in Australia, our MBA grads are, usually have about 6, 7, 8 years work experience. Our undergrads in particular, if you're thinking about some of our undergrads studying software engineering or computer science or information technologies, these guys play with those tools every day, and they come up to me and talk to me about new tools that they've explored or felt, and I'm like, I've never heard of this. So I think it's actually almost the opposite way around. Sometimes our students teach us more than we teach them.
I mean, the biggest lesson I'm taking personally from this is to see it as a play, to see it as fun, as opposed to, oh no, it's taking our jobs, it's gonna run my life. So approaching these tools with a playful sort of mindset and a spirit of play. I mean,
and probably playful outside of your work account. Otherwise, you're going to get in trouble if you're doing this for your organizational work account. But when AI first came out, I'll give you a personal example here. When AI first came out, I went on ChatGPT and I was about to go on a holiday to Northern Queensland. And I just typed in, put together a 10-day agenda for me to go on holidays to Northern Queensland. What should I go and see? What restaurants are there in the area? Recommend accommodation, put together an itinerary. And that was fun holiday planning using ChatGPT, completely harmless, in my opinion, at the time, but got me really excited. And then certainly went and visited some of the places it recommended, and went and visited some of the restaurants it recommended. And it wasn't a failure. So I went like, oh, well, this could be good. This can save me some time. It's like having a personal assistant.
Amazing. I mean, have you seen, for example, like, back, say 20 years ago, people would write, oh, I'm skilled with Microsoft Office. I mean, that sounds so basic now, right? But I remember CVs saying like, oh, I know how to use Word and Excel. Wow, and PowerPoint.
We're not impressed by that anymore, are we?
Yes. But so have you seen the AI equivalent, for example, like listing skills, like, I'm good with ChatGPT or certain type of AI software? Have you seen any sort of like industry expectations or what they're looking for there?
I haven't seen it listed by our students on their resume, unless they're actually good at programming, like SQL, Python, whatever, C++, whatever programming languages they have. That we have seen. But good with AI, I think it's like Excel and Microsoft Office suite. It's just expected. But I think the way that our students demonstrated is by what have they done? Have they worked on particular projects? We embed a lot of industry insights into our programming here, whether we have companies coming for panel discussions, for workshops. Those are the kind of things where you can really show that you have an innate interest into a certain topic. And you might want to list those things on your resume, that you've done a strategic consulting project, or you've done work integrated learning or an internship that had focused on certain elements surrounding AI.
Yes. So build your track record of AI.
Yes.
Have you seen any of the employers, like, for example, during the interview or during the written assessments they do, ask the applicants to do some sort of AI test? Like use ChatGPT to do XYZ or whatever?
Not specifically that I've heard about it. I've heard more around if you need to do a case study, whether you're allowed to use it or not. And if you have used it, you need to demonstrate the prompts that you got, that you gave it, the results you got back, how you critically questioned and asked and interrogated the tool. So I think showing that is more important. And that's also what we do with our students when it comes to assignments. Yes, if it's allowed to use, you can use it, but you just need to demonstrate and reference the tool. So use it like a referencing piece.
Yes. That's a key
So
insight
I've
for me.
seen employers do that as part of case studies and interviews, as part of your psych assessment, your fit interviews for organizations, maybe asking around your appetite for change, your appetite for different technologies.
But that's more of like a direct question, right? That's not saying using a tool.
Yeah, no, not as direct as you've had it. But it's, when you get your psychometric testing and you have to answer 60 questions and they then personality profile you.
Yeah, can you just explain what a psychometric test is, just in case
okay.
someone hasn't heard?
Yes, the psychometric testing is used by most companies early on in the recruitment process. So usually you have your online application and then you send a link to a platform, and there's tons of them out there. So any kind of psychometric testing platform where you ask a set of questions. Now, depending on the company or industry that you'd like to go into, these can focus more on numeracy. So maybe you want to go into finance, or an actuary, you need to be great at math, or you want to be the CFO. So hence more numerical questions. And it looks at your problem solving, how you're structuring your responses, how fast are you at responding,
Wow.
all of those things.
Wow.
And then it can also, the flip side is, instead of numeracy, it can also be cultural fit. So are you a good cultural fit for an organization? Are you risk adverse? Are you ready to break the boundaries around risk? And that's going to be the right or the wrong fit for a particular organization. That doesn't change who you are, and I don't think you ever should change who you are. If you're risk adverse, then that's okay, but find the right company for you. Don't find a company and work for someone that wants to break boundaries. Then maybe someone who's a bit more compliant, a bit more reserved is a better fit for you. And those psychometric assessment tests determine those things.
And those tests are becoming more and more infused with AI, is what you're saying?
Yes, as well. Yes.
Wow.
And they're everywhere. Most companies use them. Most large companies use them in Australia as part of their recruitment.
Interesting.
Because
This
it's
is
a great way
fascinating.
to filter out. It's a great way to filter out candidates that aren't going to fit with your culture. And normally you probably wouldn't discover those things until someone has worked with you for maybe a year or two.
That's right.
To say, oh, well, something is not quite right about them, but you don't know what it is because you never have the opportunity to really hone into those things.
So, generally, broadly, like what percentage of applicants get through that first screening? It's probably different for every company, right? But
Yeah, exactly.
Is it like half of them get half people?
It's a huge chunk that gets culled through assessment testing. Yeah. And rightly or wrongly so. So I've certainly also heard about examples where a very large bank in Australia, here in Sydney, has, when they first launched their cultural fit test, has tested it on their own staff. And some of their own staff have failed it. So maybe not always 100% right. And I'm sure they've done a lot of work since they first launched it. And it was controversial at the time, but it is a way. And again, it's we our MBA students, as the candidates, don't have the opportunity to change the system. But we have the opportunity to work with our students to make sure they're prepared for those systems and they understand what the system is looking for, why it's doing that. And if they get a rejection, doesn't mean that they're not a great candidate for another company. It's just that wasn't the right fit for them.
Yes. Wow. It's kind of blowing my mind because I feel like there's so much room for study on these types of, what would you call it? The testing assessment services and programs, and whether they're really serving the companies and
Yeah.
and the
Yeah.
employees. But yeah, you're saying we have to adjust to the world that is, and not,
Yes.
yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
I was going to say some of the amazing thing that actually
Yes, please.
excites me when we talk about AI in careers is how students can use the tool to help them in their career exploration. Right? When students often when they start their MBA, they might come in with an idea that, I've come from engineering, I now want to go into consulting, and I want to work for one of the MBB, McKinsey, BCG consulting firms. Yet, as they then go and progress through their MBA and they get exposed to different peers in their classroom, to different subjects, to their network, to alumni, and so on, and they might change their mind and want to explore different avenues. And that is where AI can be really interesting, kind of helping you explore current or emerging industry sectors, using the tool to maybe stay up to date on macro or micro trends that are shaping that particular industry or that particular role that you might be interested in. So again, think about the AI tool helping me plan my holiday. Here, it can help students plan, well, what are the things I need to know about this industry sector? And instead of scrolling through pages and pages and getting deep into the rabbit hole of a Google search, or getting stuck in a library with books, it's a really efficient way to just compare different ways of sectors, and then being able to use that to maybe build stepping stones. So you can prompt any AI tool and say, well, provide me 5 actionable steps I should take over the next 6 months if I want to transition from engineering to consulting. Or you can ask it, I have 10 years experience in the finance industries. Which of my skills can I use to help me transition to consulting? And it almost does that bit of a gap analysis or that SWOT analysis. It's a great tool to have in your back pocket. And of course, not standalone on its own, but together with the overlay, together with your career coach, then helping you decipher that and make that into a really succinct, great pitch.
Absolutely. I mean, I saw a video yesterday about how this one influencer he basically uploaded all his journal entries, deeply personal things, into one of the softwares. And using that context, the AI was able to ask him questions and help him find blind spots in his thinking about his career.
Yeah.
Which I find super interesting as a coach and consultant sometimes, like how AI could do that as well.
Lately.
I also find it frightening that someone's willing to share their tax returns or their journal entries with a machine, and that sometimes the machine hallucinates and who knows how the data is being used.
Yes, I agree with that. I agree. That is a bit daunting. Yes, if you're hopefully on a secure platform, that can help a little. But
oh my God.
You've got to be comfortable with what you're putting in there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And everybody's comfort level is different. But it doesn't take away from the fact that it can be really efficient and time saving. We all are time poor. It can be a really great tool to help you save some time and get you information at your fingertip. So if you know tonight, it's the afternoon here in Sydney now, if I was going to a networking session tonight and I knew XYZ couple of people were coming, I would do a quick Google search on them. Well, do I do just a Google search, or do I put their name into ChatGPT and ask it to tell me, what do I need to know? How do I start small talk with them?
Wow.
That's a great tool. There's another really exciting tool where you can actually put a name or someone's LinkedIn profile into it, and it feeds you information around their personality profile, and it gives you suggestions on how to approach them. So if you're having a meeting with someone, it will tell you, are they focused on the nitty-gritty details and numbers, or are they more of a big picture, high-level thinker, just from looking at their LinkedIn profile? So it can really help you.
That's beautiful.
Straighten out the pitch.
That's really amazing. Creepy, but amazing.
Yeah, creepy, very creepy. Certainly do not start your intro with, hi, I'm Sabine, I've looked you up on Crystal, and Crystal says I should talk to you this way. Definitely do not do that. But use the tools that are there
Yeah,
to make you
right.
shine.
Yeah. So I think in summary, what I'm hearing from you is be curious about the tools, play with them, use them responsibly, and use them to enhance your career, your skills, how you interact with others, because we're not going back.
No,
This is something that's here to stay, that will continue to evolve, and you need as much of the mindset as the skills to stay on top of it. Is kind
exactly,
of
exactly. And I
what
think
I'm grasping.
that's the absolute important message. The tools are here to stay, but the human won't go away. And the human will forever be needed to make sure that the tools are used responsibly, ethically, and questioned, that the information that it spits out is questioned. And equally for my team being a careers department, we're not going away. You still need people who want to talk to people, and we certainly, our coaches are busier than ever with one-on-one coaching sessions with our students, because they're just as confused about the new tools coming in, so we can help them. Okay, this is what ChatGPT has given you, this is your resume, let's put that together, and here is your narrative that is authentically you.
Yeah, beautiful. I've loved this conversation. Thank you for just openly sharing what you've seen. I just want to ask, is there something I missed? Like, is there a question I didn't ask that, I should have about
Well,
AI?
we talked about maybe some of the courses that we have here, and one of them is our AI strategy course. And we've run it for a while, but we're relaunching it, and it's coming out again at the end of this year. But we're also, AGSM is part of the GNAM network, the global network of advanced management schools. And we actually, for the first time this year, ran an AI-focused Global Network Week course as well. And that was a 1-week intensive AI strategy course. And it was partnered with McKinsey, as well as Louis Vuitton, Moët Hennessy, LVMH, and CBA, one of the banks here, to really provide that industry insight and case studies. We have a disruption and transformation course for our executive MBA students. And again, looking at the disruption in today's agile environment. And I think that is where the MBA students can really shine when it comes to entering careers. How can we use the technology, but make it something meaningful for a strategy, a vision that companies have, and how do they work with the tools?
Absolutely. And you mentioned that AGSM has a AI Institute.
Oh, yes. So UNSW does. AGSM is part of it. But yes, we have an
UNSW.
AI Institute. And that was founded, well, I think now 2 years ago almost. But it's the largest AI organization in Australia, basically. And it's a 3-prong approach. So it's there for researchers to really help us define research excellence using AI, connecting our researchers with external organizations. If you think about some of those industries and large companies trying to understand how do we work with AI, our researchers can really come in with their expertise, and together they can create something meaningful. And it can drive some of that research out into the real world. That I think over 300 of our academics are involved in the AI Institute. It's got about 50 different research groups and centers as part of it. So it's a huge beast here. But really, its mission is to apply AI in a responsible way. That is behind everything that UNSW and AGSM are doing here. It's not just embracing the tools, but it's how can we make sure that they're used for good.
Yeah. I mean, I love to hear that. Again, the skeptical side of me thinks, when these companies have a profit margin, they're just going to release the quickest and earliest they can without thinking as much about how it's affecting society. I hope that these sort of researchers are influential enough to affect those decisions, but I mean,
but I think that you've got to give the customer credit here too. Us customers have a huge pull on organizations to enforce. Think about climate change. Climate change is probably something it's been talked around for decades now. We understand it. We see the value in it. We know if global warming keeps going up, our planet is going to go down. So customers have put huge change into organizations around their sustainability and their sustainable way of operating. Now, what's to say that customers can't demand responsible use of AI of organizations over the next decade as well? So I think your customers are a big pull. They're the shareholders, they're the stakeholders, and they will drive the price as well. So I think we're not there yet, but I see that as a similar transition to what has happened in climate change and sustainable practice of ways of doing business.
Absolutely. Sabine, this has been a great conversation. Thank you so much. And
very welcome.
maybe we can do a follow-up in a few years to see how things have changed on the ground.
Let's see if I was completely off the mark, or if I had some parts right. Yes, it will be really interesting looking back at this in a few years' time and how we talk about it then. I agree.
Yeah. But thank you again.
Thank you, Darren.
Thanks for listening to the Touch MBA podcast. Remember, you can get free school selection help and a profile review at touchmba.com. You can also follow us on LinkedIn and Twitter. Just search for Touch MBA.